Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a Rune and Tarot Divination for Monday, the 25th day of July, 2022. Well, I hope you all had a good week last week. I hope you stayed cool as best you can. I guess it's going to be 90 by noon today, and it's supposed to get to 100 today, but on Friday, it'll be 107, possibly 110. So here we go. The race to stay cool is on. We've been watering everywhere, and so it's just, I don't know. We'll see how well we do, or if we just simply melt away. So anyway, let's see. If this is your first time here, welcome. I appreciate you coming by and checking us out here. I'm going to start out with the esoteric influences from this week's post over on the blog at Stepping Aside. The web address there is imsteppingaside.com. And if you forget, just click on Show More and scroll down a little bit past the description of what I'm doing here. And you'll see a bunch of links, and you'll see the website there. You can go over there and take a look at that. I'm actually pretty proud of that website. I've done it all myself, and so it's, with the help of WordPress themes. WordPress makes it easy. Well, I wouldn't say easy, but easier. In some ways, it makes it easier, but you can do it. They have a lot of different modules you can use, and it makes inserting different things in different ways really kind of a lot easier than having to write the code yourself. So, I've been doing this. I've had the blog since 2012. So, for 10 years. And so we're almost 10 years. And it's been a lot of fun. And sometimes some frustration when things don't go right, but of late, I kind of got that out of the way early. So anyway. But in any event, let's look at Monday's esoteric influences. Being the 25th, that number reduces to 7. So we're looking at a numerology of the day itself as 7. So balance, observation, seeking truth, magic, and spirituality. The rune Yira from the Elder Futhark is the as above side today. It means year or unfolding awareness. It's a gardening rune. It's energetic alignment and balance. The Geomancy rune, or the below side of as above, so below, is Caput Draconis. Now that's governed by the north node of the moon. You've got the north and the south. The south is more about the past experience or karma, things like that. Caput, on the other hand, is about the future. So we're looking at the dragon's head. We're looking at new beginnings, as opposed to the dragon's tail with Kata. The entrance on the threshold of something, the upper kingdom. The sun's in Leo, the moon's in Gemini until it shifts to Cancer this morning at 10:54 a.m. The planetary governance today for those working magic is the moon. But I think that, let's see, do I have that here? Yeah, I think but the favorability for working magic today is very bad, given that it's the 25th. So, be patient. Anyway, keep the lines of communication open this week so that you understand the overall picture, enabling you to pursue new opportunities that come your way. Spend time with friends and family who can lift your spirits, keep you moving forward, and who help keep you feeling centered and balanced. You may find that your leadership is called on because you both confront challenges without expectations and find solutions within circumstances that others might perceive as limiting. You're willing to let go of solutions that no longer apply, and you maintain an inner balance irrespective of the situation you encounter. All of this enables you to nurture the talents of others and provide support when needed. So that's the esoteric influences for today. Let me just move those aside, just in case we need them. We'll keep them there. Of late, we've been, sometimes I've been drawing either the same Elder Futhark rune for the reading, or I've done the same Geomancy rune for the reading as for the day. So let's go ahead and take our 2 significator runes for today's reading. We have I was. Now, I was is a as above, so below rune, basically. Well, I'll do it this way. It's laguz, up and down. It's not forward and reversed, though, because you turn it upside down and it's the same. You see what I'm saying? So it's like it's a circular type of experience, or a spiral type of experience. Even the spiral aspect of the focus into form is really probably what I was really represents. It helps with trance work. Let's see, it's the connection between opposites. It represents both air and fire. As above, so below. Again, the link between realms. It's also about protection, spirit protection. But again, it's about flow with laguz, flow of spirit into, or higher awareness into our basically our physical form. So hopefully allowing it's like the channel that allows spirit to inform ego. That would be another way of looking at it. Let me just set that down there. And let's go ahead and do the 4 elemental geomancy runes. We'll throw them down and see what we come up with. We put them in the order of fire, air, water, and earth, because that's the hierarchy of movement from spirit into form, basically, the elemental hierarchy. Let's see. Oh, okay, we have Puella, or Puea. There it is there. When you're looking at Pur and Puella, you're looking at little kid energy, children's energy, youthful energy. In this case, it's the little girl energy. So you're looking at it's a very positive rune, very joyful. But she's here, there, and everywhere. Her focus is here, there, and everywhere. She wants to know everything. I've said this a million times before here. I was a Puella growing up. I had to know about everything, very interested in everything. I could focus, of course, but if something was more interesting, I'm going to go, oh, well, what about that? And what about that? And I tend to like to examine all angles of things. And so that would be the more adult version of this. It's a little bit more directed. But here we're looking at youthful energy that's quite scattered, but happily so. So with I was then connecting the two, I think that I was may help keep the attention a little more focused. Or as we're going to look at it as, depending on what the cards are, if the cards are going to help us to be focused, or if the cards are going to illustrate the issues we have when we're not, it could actually be something like that. I try to hopefully put the two together, in a sentence, basically, to describe what the reading's going to be, but it's really kind of, you might be able to look at it as being aware of all of it, having a greater understanding, really. It's just that it's very, if you're going to look at it from the youthful side of it, it's kind of scattered energy. So let's see. Well, I'm going to leave these the way they are. I'm not going to move them into any other, I'm not going to move them into any other order, I don't think. I have the King of Wands, the Page of Swords, and Death. Death is the 13th card from the Major Arcana, so we have if you want to leave it at that as the Master Witch number, you can do that. Quite transformative if you do that. And again, Death is about transformation. So otherwise, we're looking at 4. So the numerology would have to do with, again, probably more the, well, I mean, it could actually have to do with both runes, but we'll get to that. We have the King of Wands and the Page of Swords now. They're both looking into the past instead of to the future, whereas Death is, you see the transition of moving forward into the future with Death riding on his horse going in that direction. You'll see that when I'll just show you here. You see they're looking to the past, and Death is going to the future. So That's why I want to leave them here. The King of Wands is an authority figure. He's an older man. He's knowledgeable. He's a wise counselor. He's a warrior. He can be cruel or bigoted as well, but he can also be a wise and loving mentor. You see him sitting on his throne. And let's see, do I want to say anything about his cape? Well, yeah, you've got the Ouroboros all over the back side of his cape there, of his robe. He's holding a staff in one hand, in his right hand, and he doesn't have anything at all in his left. But you see the family crests behind. You see the lion, which denotes strength, and the kingly aspect of self. But then you see the Ouroboros. You see 3 of them there. And again, if you look very, very closely, I hope that's not blurry, but you can see them all over the backside of his cape. And in this case, the Ouroboros is not a snake, it's a salamander. The salamander is the elemental for fire, for the element of fire. Little elemental, he's down there. And so it's this continuous type of presence, basically. This connection, this circular aspect of things. So the king can kind of get caught up in that type of energy as well. But he's obviously looking to the past to sort of govern what's been going on, to try to give you some wise counsel about that. Looking at that, today again with the Geomancy room from the esoteric influence, we have Caput Draconis, which is new beginnings, and so that's going to align well with death. But the unfolding awareness of Yira from that may also have something to do with that. Some kind of awareness that's unfolding that doesn't really seem to be, kind of stuck a little bit in the past, which could have something to do maybe with Puella. Not necessarily in a negative way, but maybe there's just some things you need to be thinking about before you can move on, and kind of put things into perspective and not have them be so scattered with Puella. Here we have the Page of Swords. Now, the Page of Swords is a youthful individual, again, like Puella. He takes risks. He's intelligent. He's diplomatic. But he can also be a little bit petty. It's like he's trying to cut through the clouds of deception around him with his sword. But you can see the movement of the air is definitely moving things out of the way, because it's clearly blowing on his face. His hair's extended out. You can see that evidenced by the trees down there as well, that the wind is blowing this way toward the future. Pages are about undeveloped potential. They're also about students and messengers. Depending, it could portend the birth of a child, for example, depending on which one. But not so much with the Page of Swords. So there's something about the king. There's something about either how you express leadership or authority, and that was also evident today in today's esoteric influences. Either something about that or taking care of business and getting things all in order. The kings are very ordered in that regard, having the authority to do that. As opposed to letting in other words, asserting yourself versus just sort of sitting there and letting everything happening around you. But here with with the King of Wands, again, that's the element of fire. But here we have the element of air with swords. And so air is going to talk about communication and intellect and decisions and justice and balance and cutting through deception. So whatever is going on here when you're trying to reorder things and get some grasp on and define what something is, the catalytic side of self, the creative side of self, you may have to put things in order. Because of Puella's influence, things might be a little bit scattered, but now you need to be certain of what was so that you can begin to embrace what's going to be. And there's just this element of deception that you need to understand, I think, with this, where, you know, he's leaning into the future, but he's looking back in the same direction the king is looking in. So trying to maybe understand the broader message, which then would align also with I was, as you bring spirit or higher awareness into your perceptions, the lower perceptions, and trying to get the biggest or the greatest understanding you can. Generally speaking, there's some compassion there as well, with higher awareness coming in, as opposed to ego just perceiving things the way ego needs to do that. There just needs to be something a little bit, you need to be aware, in other words, of the greater message involved, of what has gone on in the past, so that you can then apply new reasoning, new ideas with the page, to what you're going to be doing in the future. And we still really don't know what that is. We might take one more card here, see if we can get some kind of idea of what that means. In fact, let's go ahead and do that now and read it before we go to death, because death really, it's about what's coming, and we don't necessarily know what that is. Although we see the sun rising between two peaks, or not two peaks, but two towers in the distance there, it does suggest light that's balanced, and so, or higher awareness that's balanced, so, or perception maybe that's balanced, but as opposed to whatever is going on, and I have no idea what's going on, what they're really looking at, what they're leaving behind, so they can transform to the future. I'm going to take the 13th one. Yeah. A journey to new experiences. Well, you know, that doesn't really tell us a whole lot. It's a shared journey with the 6. It's in the winter time. It's like traveling over water. But the idea of winter that comes into play here, because it's clearly winter, you see likely, I always read this as a family, okay? Mom and the child are sort of, they're in their cloaks, they're huddled against the cold. You see all of their ideas, all of their truths, all of their values, all of they don't leave behind any of that. And it's the new ideas for the future that they're going towards. So it again, it's movement over water, but with the winter, what follows is spring, and which is a very airy kind of time, a very swords kind of time. But right now, the winter is implying that everything is coming to conclusion. And again, I think that that's what you see here with the king. He's looking toward the past to try to bring some kind of order to the past. And again, with an eye to all of that, the page is moving into the future. And again, we can put this in between, probably the Page of Swords and Death. But the idea is that you're letting go of the past, you're letting go of old perceptions, and you're moving on to something new. Perception and air goes well together. And again, it could be that whatever the king is looking at, maybe you're getting it into order, you're creating some level of understanding about it, but maybe there's going to be a shift in perception going forward. Maybe you were caught up in something before that now you have more information about, and it's not, you kind of have a different understanding now about it. And so you're ready to put that where it belongs and move on to the future, irrespective of the challenges ahead, because, you know, you're getting through that transitional phase. And let's face it, sometimes transition is not as easy as one might think, right? Especially if you're moving to a new locale, for example. And that doesn't necessarily, the Six of Swords can indicate that, but it doesn't necessarily have to. Again, this could simply be setting one set of perceptions aside because you've got some realization, you've cut through some self-deception or deception other people have expected you to believe, whatever that is. But you've cut through that, you've let go of it, and now you're moving forward irrespective of the challenge. Because it's on water, it could be somewhat emotion based, where you realize it's like when you realize you've been duped. You put your trust or faith in somebody or a group of somebody's, and you believed what they had to say, and then all of a sudden something happens and it causes the light bulb to go off, and then you realize it's like, uh-oh, I got caught up in something that wasn't correct, and I have to let go of that now. You have to be gentle on yourself when that happens. It isn't that you were ignorant. It's that maybe the people that were duping you or the person who was duping you is a consummate con artist. And so, they're accustomed to knowing what triggers to pull on people, that they know what to do this. In other words, it's usually a type of criminal element, basically. It can rise to that. Or it could just be that you got manipulated into doing something that maybe even you knew better than, but you went and you did it anyway because of the relationship you had with that person. It's like, well, okay, I'll do that. And then later you come to regret it. It's like, well, okay, I see what's going on here, so I'm not going to let that happen anymore. So that would be an example of a shift away from simply doing something for a friend or a family member because they asked, when inside you kind of thought, well, should I be doing that? But then you go and you do it anyway, and it's like, and then you realize it's like, well, maybe I shouldn't have. So it could be something as simple as that. It doesn't have to be anything really grandiose, although with the king, it's significant because it's the king, right? So at that point then, Death rides through on his beautiful white horse. Now, you see the pentagram contained within the white rose on the flag. When you see an inverted pentagram, you're basically looking at a focus into form, as opposed to the top point focusing to spirit. And then these are the air, fire, water, and earth down here. But here, this would be air, this would be water, this would be earth, and this would be fire. But basically, when it's turned the opposite, it means that the focus is now on form. It's on the rebirth into form, basically, because once you have death, you have rebirth, and you see rebirth as evidenced over here. And this time, you see the two towers right here. So anytime you see two of anything, whether it's two rock faces, two trees, two towers, two peaks, you've got a sense of balance there. And here you have the sun rising behind. You also see the town or the kingdom back here behind. And it's illuminating a new experience, but this one is going to be in a little bit better balance or balanced polarity or what have you. But here you have the Hierophant giving last rites. You have the queen and the child bereft on the ground because here's the king. I guess my finger was covering up the king. The king's dead on the ground. So there's basically this level of transformation, but it's pure. You see the white horse and the white rose. It's a sense of purity, a sense of new beginnings. We see that again with today's esoteric influences with Caput Draconis. We're on the threshold of something new. It's reflective of the upper kingdom. So even though death is riding through, there is an element, especially with I was here, the as above, so below aspect of things, of the soul coming in again, and the soul that was within the king deciding to come in again into form and be somebody else. And we don't really have a clue yet who that's going to be here. There's nothing about the card that's going to tell us that. But let's see if there's anything else. This is a Rider-Waite deck, but the way that they've used the colors in it, it's different than the traditional one. And I just love it. I love the grays and the blues. They're just gorgeous. But it's essentially the same deck. But you can see different things in this one than you don't see in the others. And I think it's just the choice of the colors that they use that maybe brings some of that out. So I always like to look really closely at it to be sure I'm not missing something that they're sort of showing. Yeah, there's the king's crown on the ground as well. But realistically, I think that there's a sense of new beginnings here today, both with the reading and with the esoteric influences, where you need to see things from a different perspective, and take that journey into new ideas and new experiences and a shift in perception. Letting go again of what you had and taking with you what still works and moving confidently into the future, irrespective of the fear or the challenges that might be there, especially if you're having to. Especially if this is relationship based. I keep coming back to that. It just keeps coming into my head. If it's relationship based, then maybe the struggle, the transformation is you get into patterns, old patterns with people, and to then shift that pattern into something else, so that you're not feeling like maybe you're being led down the garden path by somebody, or you're not feeling like, well, I'm giving myself away when I should. In other words, maybe I'm saying yes when I should say no. It's one of those kinds of things that seems to be also there. So I think that for today, then we need to take the scattered focus of Puella and center it a little bit more, and bring it into some kind of realistic perspective. And again, it's not a negative rune or anything. It's positive. It's just that we need to kind of be aware and get our focus a little more concentrated, so that we can understand what's really happening. When you're scattered, maybe you don't notice as much, but you need to notice. That's maybe the word we need to use, is you need to notice what's going on. Get your focus a little more straightforward and concentrated, so that you can take a look realistically about what's going on and realize something about it. Take the inner authority that you have to then to shift your perception into something new, to let go of deception or self-deception, or to reject deception by others, however that's playing out, because it doesn't. I mean, it could be all kinds of ways, really, how it would play out. But then go ahead and take that shift in perception to a new experience, to where you allow some inner transformation, where you can ultimately, let the light of spirit return and basically infuse into form, so that you can start anew. Basically, it doesn't mean anybody's dying. It just means that it's you're allowing something new to come in the same way that when the body does die and the soul decides to go and reincarnate into something else, into another experience, basically, wherever that is, it coming back into some kind of form, if you will, unless it's ascended on past that sort of thing. But at the same time, if it's coming back into some kind of form, then you're coming back into some kind of structured experience, and you can define that a little bit better maybe than the scattered focus will give you. And again, be prepared at some point to reject a certain level of perception that you had going, and realize some things about that, and then be ready to shift that into something that is a little bit more protective of your own integrity, your own choices, and just who you are. So I think that's it. I think we did it. Have we gone over time? No, almost. We're getting close. I try to keep these no more than 30 minutes, but sometimes it happens. Anyway, well, again, stay cool today if you can. I don't know. I walk around with a wet towel around my neck and my hat on when I'm outside. I did that when I was harvesting oat seed. I had to do that. I had to pick peas yesterday, and so I'm glad I got that done. I still have more peas to pick eventually, but hopefully I can do that early morning. Probably the next couple of days there'll be some more ready, but I'll let them go a little bit, and because some of them aren't ready at all. So Anyway, maybe I'm in that. I've already done it twice now. Maybe I'm in that section of time where I can let it go a little bit, especially during this heat, because sometimes things don't grow so well in triple digit heat. So maybe it'll slow things down. I don't know. Got some zucchini that's about ready. It's nice and dark, but they're small, so I'm gonna let them get a little bit bigger. So maybe today or tomorrow I can go and pick some zucchini. I've almost picked all the cabbage, so that's done. But everything's like 3 weeks behind. I don't know. Weird spring this year. So nothing grew. Nothing grew at all. Or it bolted if it did. So I've already had onions going to seed. It's like, no. That can't happen yet. But anyway, thanks for watching. And stay cool. Have a good week. Think about what we talked about here. See if any of it resonates. If it doesn't today, it could tomorrow. So anyway, thanks again for watching. Click subscribe. I'd love you to do that and give it a like if you want to do that. This is just something YouTube likes. So anyway. And come back again on Thursday for another edition of As Above, So Below. Be good to yourself. Be good to one another. And blessed be.